Hey everybody, this is Rich, and you are watching an Indie Plus production. This is a live game. We're playing a demo of a game that's currently in Kickstarter, and it's going to be in for about, I think, 8 more days. Ben can tell us all about it when we get to him. The game is called Vow of Honor, and I have some excellent people from my normal intercontinental group of awesome game group who have come along and donated some of their time to play this game with us. So first I'll introduce Alex Prinz. How are you doing, Alex?
I there we go. I was muted on my headset. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes I
Yeah,
can.
good. Yeah, yeah. I'm. Do you want a character introduction?
No, I want to know Alex, and then we'll get into
Oh,
characters in a second. How you
I'm
doing?
Alex, and I'm a new father, very tired. And I. What do I do? I like to illustrate and stuff. Yeah.
Yes, he does. You should check out some of Alex's art. It's pretty fantastic.
Oh, I will.
And then next we have Yona, who's off in Finland. How are you, Yona?
I'm fine, thank you. So yes, I'm Jonna, and I've been role-playing since 2012 and already fitted something like 102 different RPGs in this time. So as you can imagine, I love to play games. All the games. So I'm excited. New game.
No, Yona, you set like a crazy record for yourself. Like, how many games have you played this calendar year?
Oh, this calendar year, I haven't counted all but the new
All
games.
of them?
Yeah, all of them I haven't counted, but 67 maybe, including this one, or 68, and that's the new games, but I haven't counted the old one in there, so quite a few.
Wow.
She just mainlines games, Ben.
That's great.
Last but not least, we have the designer of Vow of Honor, who's currently running the Kickstarter, and that is Ben Dutter. How are you, Ben?
I'm very well, thanks for having me on.
Good. Well, Ben, if you want to just kind of kick it off, let's play Vow of Honor.
Sure. Want me to do a little brief snippet of what Vow of Honor is about first?
Please.
Sure. So Vow of Honor is a relatively rules-light game that focuses on the Arbiters of Fasan. And Arbiters are essentially warrior judges, kind of a cross between Jedi, samurai, and watchdogs from Dogs in the Vineyard. So they are morally bound, and they take certain vows to their code of honor, their tenets of honor, and they try to make their setting, Sasara, a better place by punishing the bad guys and helping out the good guys. So they're seen as iconoclasts of justice in the setting. And that's who we're going to be making today. You guys are going to be players playing as arbiters and hopefully doing good things.
All right. That is cool. Now, we have had a chance to look at the Quick Start, which you can download from the Kickstarter webpage right now and check it out. You can even look at a draft of the game as it's written now. Isn't that right, Ben?
That's right. I have the full current draft version for preview. You don't have to pledge. A lot of games, they do the $1 or $10 pledge, gets you access to the beta or whatever. You can click it. You don't have to pledge. You can read it. You can digest it, share it, whatever you want. And then if you like the game, then you can check out the Kickstarter.
Very cool. Awesome. So let's make some characters then. I think all of us have taken a glance at the Quick Start ahead of time to try to save some time.
Right.
But we have not talked specifically about characters other than showing pictures to each other of really cool looking weapons.
Okay, well, that's fine. So what I usually like to do is I want to just have a brief little discussion about the game's tone and us to all agree sort of on an acceptable tone that we're shooting for, because if I'm going really hard and serious and you guys are trying to be more tongue-in-cheek, then that's not going to sit properly with the game. So, but it can be played. There's usually kind of two flavors. You can be really just kind of iconic good guys, or you view yourself as good people trying to do good things from your character's perspective. So it'd be like a party of paladins or something like that. Or you can be sort of in that gritty gray zone where a lot of arbiters try to do the greater good and are willing to break a few eggs to make an omelet, as it were. So those are sort of the tone. They get into much different problems and character development. So let's kind of agree on that first, and then we can sort of dive into the game concept and the character concepts from there.
I really like gritty gray.
Exactly.
I'm cool with gray. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's probably the more common.
Though we may think of ourselves as paladins completely in our own heads.
Right.
Also
Yeah,
the hard and serious, not tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and
Right.
I think Vow of Honor is better, more serious toned than goofy. I've done a couple of fun goofy games with some off the wall characters, but it definitely caters more to a serious gameplay. Okay, so we got that out of the way. So then what I like to do before we talk characters is decide on what I call in the rules a game concept. And it's just a quick phrase or a word or two that describe sort of the point of the game. So it's even a condensed version. It would be almost like a subhead of a movie title or something like that. So some common ones are, traveling the dangerous road, or, surviving the wilderness, or exploring Forebear ruins. It's just sort of a gist of what you want the game to entail. So any ideas, guys?
We did discuss before about maybe getting a cure to a village, a remote village.
Yeah, we mentioned on the dangerous road, and perhaps the thrust of that was to try to get some kind of cure for something to a village. Does that sound good, Ben? Or
Yeah,
not?
that's
What do you think?
totally cool. If you guys are into that, Yana, go ahead and chime in.
Yes, that sounds absolutely fine.
Okay, yeah, and that's totally fitting. And arbiters, one of their main duties is to travel around from cities that are within their protection. They build these fortifications called enclaves, and the enclaves serve not only as a base for the arbiters, but also as a refuge for people should they need it. And so pretty much any city that has or a town or village or whatever that has an enclave in it is under the protection, at least to the arbiter's opinion, of the Order of Hassan. And so they have crews of or parties of members that will travel between these different enclaves trying to take care of stuff and healing people and delivering mail and bringing the news to folks and things like that. So that's totally acceptable, and you guys could be one of those parties that's assumed to be sort of a constantly traveling circuit between several of the enclave settlements. So then that segues nicely into character creation. You would want to build characters that match the tone that we're trying to look for, and that match the game concept that we've agreed upon. So, if you guys are all 3 farmers, that's going to be very different than 3 warriors. So kind of decide amongst yourselves what works, and don't worry about party balance or anything like that, but just bear in mind the game concept and the tone.
Well, I was kind of thinking going in a way that my character probably saw her complete family being butchered, and that kind of made her want to see and do good things. And what she considers being good is not necessarily always what everybody else considers being good, but she tries. And she's thinking that she would be good in stuff like awareness and stealthy and tracking, that sort of thing.
Okay.
But not afraid to use her weapons either.
Okay. And two things to consider is your character's background, so kind of their life up to, a week ago. How did they become an arbiter? Why? So like, Yona, your description was perfect. And then the foreground, and that's the relevant twist or the relevant piece of information of the character in the last day or week or hour right before the game starts that makes them want to work towards whatever your goal is as a party. So why are you on this mission to bring this cure to the village or whatever? So think about that when you're thinking about your character as well.
I guess it would be kind of easy to go with that. I want to save them because I couldn't save my family. I want to save whoever I want. And Rich,
Beautiful.
I started talking at the same time with you, so go on.
No, perfect. That's great. Rich?
So for Kevlar, I'm thinking it would be interesting to explore the idea that he was the child of an arbiter from a family of arbiters that has been handed down from generation to generation, but that his mother, it's not gender specific who's an arbiter, correct?
Not at all, no.
Cool. So I think it was his mother was an arbiter, and she's not dead, she's away. And okay. So are there anything like convents or monasteries in this world?
Yeah, definitely. So there's a lot of other ideologies in Sasara, and the biggest one is called the Church of Creation. And they basically believe that the creators were the godly figures that created the Forebears and created Sasara, and it's from their wisdom and insight into the universe that creates all things that are good or bad. So there's sort of this omnipotent, distant force that has since abandoned Sasara, and you have to pray really hard and be really good to try to get the creators to pay attention to you. So they're sort of, this Church of Creation is not really an antagonist, but an ideological sort of analog to the Arbiters, which are not a religious organization.
Cool. I think then Kevlar, his mother left him at one of the churches, and so he saw Arbiters when all the decisions were really easy to make, and he was a child, and so it was very black and white in his mind. And then he spent the last few years within the church, and now he's an Arbiter himself. He's chosen that path, and this is one of his first challenges.
Sure.
So yeah, he's got a very idealized perspective.
Yeah, that makes sense, and that's a cool combination if you have, and there's nothing in being an Arbiter or being a member of the Order of Hasan that prevents you from having your own ideological code or your own religion that you follow. So, there is a segment of Arbiters that do follow the Church of Creation, as long as it does not interfere with their duties as an Arbiter. So you've made this commitment, you've taken the vows to be an Arbiter to get to the point where you are today, knowing full well that if push comes to shove between your religion and your vows to the Tenets of Honor, you'll have to honor your vows, or you'll be forsaking your tenets, essentially. Now, your character doesn't have to be following that religion if you don't want, and there are plenty of people simply just live with the Church of Creation until they're adults, or until they choose to leave. So that's up to you.
Cool. Yeah, I think maybe the inciting incident for him is that he recently received from another Arbiter, like the mail system. He said that he delivered the mail. He received his mother's weapon. No message, just the weapon. Okay.
Interesting. I like that. So we'll have sort of an heirloom artifact. So I would definitely make note of that on your character sheet down in the bottom where there's equipment. That's it. That is notable equipment, since it has at least some sort of personal significance to you.
Cool.
Yeah, I am a Roos. I think a orphan child who was raised by the Arbiters,
okay.
Possibly under one specific mentor.
Sure.
If it's okay, I'm ripping a bit off Dark Tower, that my mentor maybe helped me make my revolvers, if that's possible, or
so for guns, let me just talk a little bit about the settings, technology level, and whatnot. There are guns, but guns are extremely valuable. So an Arbiter, because they do not typically keep a lot of wealth or maintain they're sort of ascetic in their lifestyle. So if an Arbiter had the personal possession of a gun, it would be more than likely given to them on loan from their enclave or from somebody else, with the knowledge that it was not to be used for anything other than your duty. Like, you couldn't go out and sell it. And because guns are not understood of how to be made, and the only guns that are left are Forebear technology. So
okay, so more a passed on one then.
Yeah, definitely, and there are plenty around, but it would be the equivalent of someone in medieval 14th or 13th century Europe with a laser gun. So it's not like a revolver. It's like I have like a gun that when I point it at somebody, they disintegrate. So it's extremely high tech compared to the current tech level of Sasara.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, then it was handed down by my mentor, who is almost like either a father or a grandfatherly figure to me.
Sure.
And maybe he was an older Arbiter, and when he when I was of age, he basically hung up his gun and passed it on to me.
Okay.
Continue his thing, and I've been training with it all my life. So because I have a vow of not killing, so I have had to train a lot to be able to use a revolver and not kill people.
Right. And what's interesting with that is, the guns, the forebearer guns that, like this one that you would have, they don't require ammunition. They do shoot like a very small projectile, so it's extremely accurate and very low recoil. So it really is almost just as good as your hand-eye coordination. You wouldn't have to be too worried with your skill at handling the gun. It's just your aim. So I would make that clear that your character could even use the gun. You could roll like awareness versus coordination even to aim it.
I went with exemplary coordination.
Okay, which is perfect. Yeah, I just was getting at because the guns are so high tech. They've pretty much perfected the art of gun making in the forebearer era. So that is also significant. So make sure that you put that in your equipment, because bandits and marauders and people who would want to make a fortune off of that or would want to keep that will definitely try to come and get you.
Yeah.
And then any kind of inciting incident or foreground that your character has?
Well, I think just the fact that I really want to continue the honor of my mentor of his vow of not killing. I think it's very important to me, since like I'm taking on his tradition.
Okay.
As he's retired, so.
Okay, great. Very interesting. So I like all the characters. Any other significant elements or NPCs or anything that you guys want me to try to incorporate? I know this is just like a one-shot, but...
I'm going a little bit back to the weapons. If it's okay, I would like to have the handgun and a machete, and I'm thinking that I found them at home after my family was butchered. I didn't know we had them. So.
Sure. Yeah, and a lot of people will go into Forebearer ruins and find pieces of technology, but very few people are brave enough to do that. So, your family or your father or your mother, whoever, could have been an explorer or just randomly stumbled upon a ruin and went inside and found this weird thing and didn't even know how to make it work, maybe. And then you, over the last 10 years or however long, have trained with it and figured out how it operates.
Maybe that's why they were killed.
Yeah.
Found something.
Why not? Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
It was very well.
Okay. Yeah, it could have been in like concealed under the floorboards or something like that, or buried in somebody's grave. Something that a normal bandit or somebody wouldn't think to try to find or look for.
So, Ben, I'm sorry, I think there's a little bit of confusion on my part about guns. When I was reading the draft rules, I thought there were forebearer guns, and then there were more common guns that were a lot more cobbled together that I guess that's where my head was.
No, that's correct. So there's perfectly working forebearer guns, which are the kind that I wouldn't give to players. They would... Like I said, you would point and click and everyone disappears. So that's not the kind of equipment that you guys would have. You would have the 15 generations of somebody taking one of those guns after it's been damaged and trying to hack it down to make it work over and over and over again, and that's where they are today. So they're very heavily repurposed, and they may not have even originally been a gun. Like, it may have been a power cell of some other piece of technology, and then a barrel that they cobbled together, and then had a blacksmith figure out how the ammunition system works. You know what I mean? So they can totally look goofy and cobbled together, but they're scary. Even the non-perfect forebearer guns are very powerful, and more powerful than guns today.
Cool. I think what I'd like to do then for Kevlar is just switch his gun to a sword, because to me it's just the color of the mother's sword sent down to the sun, and now what do you do? And it allows Yana and Alex's characters' guns to be a little bit more special. So I'm cool to kind of switch that over if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah, totally. And usually, I've had games where everybody's had forebearer tech and guns and high-tech armor and stuff, and I've had games where people used only unarmed. So there's a wide spectrum or a wide gamut of tech there.
Okay, cool.
So after that, we've got our concepts kind of figured out. What you'll need to do is look at the 5 Tenets of Honor on the top of the sheet under where it says, I think it just says Tenets of Honor, yeah. So there's commitment, compassion, purity, righteousness, and understanding. 2 of those 5, put a check mark or an X or whatever next to where it says oath sworn. So 2 of the 5 you're oath sworn to. And those are the 2 that your character finds especially significant and noteworthy for whatever reason.
I'm going to go with commitment, if everybody's okay with that. I mean, there's 3 of us, so I don't know if we have to split all of them
Not
up.
at all. You could all have the same exact combination. Doesn't matter.
And I'm going with purity as well.
Commitment and
Oh
purity.
no, those were the exact things that I chose.
I will switch.
Can you see?
Yeah.
I'll switch purity. It's okay.
Oh, the
I'll
great
just
mind.
quickly get in and say I'm going for commitment, but righteousness as well.
Oh man, that was my backup. All right, I will go with. He's kind of built on not understanding, so I think I'm going to go with commitment and compassion.
Okay.
Well, you can totally go with the same, with just commitment and purity. It's just, we have been gaming so much together, we think alike.
Yeah. And the cool thing about having so few tenets that cover such broad spectra is that they have a lot of different interpretations. And even the official doctrine that the arbiters follow with the Tenets of Honor, it's this tome that they all study and read from the first progenitors of the order. There's a lot, just like in modern religious text, there's a lot of interpretation or room for interpretation there where people derive different meanings from that. So there's sort of the agreed upon middle ground that everybody knows, but then there's these, edge cases where, well, maybe purity extends to such and such or whatever. So that's interesting. I've had a party that were all built exactly the same skills and the same tenets, and they all had a slightly different version of what those tenets meant. So you can have plenty of wiggle room even if there's overlap. So once you got all those, and I don't need to know them, just as long as your characters, you know and understand what that means. Then each of the oath sworn tenets, check one of the 2 maneuver boxes below them. So where it says tenet maneuvers, pick one of oath sworn. So just one of those 2, select, and you get that ability that you can use at any time, even if it's not your turn or it may not make direct sense. We'll find a way to make it make sense in the scenario.
Okay.
And those are derived just from your character's extreme dedication to that tenet. Go ahead, Alex. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just going to say I'm immune to fear, and I get to add a 1 extra something to
Extra die.
Yeah, to my if I fail something.
Yeah. So what was the second maneuver?
1 AD. I get 1 AD to a rolls if I'm if I failed it at first and I'm trying to...
Oh, under commitment, the top one under commitment? Yeah. Okay, yep. So that just, you're very perseverant. So you fail and you're like, no, I'm gonna do it, and then you're better at accomplishing your task.
Yeah.
I'll take the other one just because I want to see what it does. Each HD spent removes 1 severity of an injury sustained this round. So cool.
Right. Which that, in layman's terms, basically means you ignore injury for a short period of time. So you can get shot full of holes and just keep going.
I'm going with that one too.
Okay. And what's your second maneuver, Rich and Yana?
Each HD spent is an automatic success toward
no.
removing another... What?
Oh my god!
Well, now you're immune to sickness.
Down here, we are thinking way too similarly now.
I'll switch it. Each HD spent is an automatic success on skill rolls to attempt to make someone compassionate.
Oh my god.
Okay.
All right.
All right. And then Yana?
Yeah, I was going with the each HD spend is an automatic success toward cancelling an opponent's difficulty derived from dishonor. Yeah, the one poor Rich tried to choose. I feel awful now because I.
You got it. Go for it. It's good. We're
just stealing all Rich's things.
Yes.
Well, your character
I want a sword now, Rich. Give me a sword.
Now, some clarity around kind of what you guys do and know and everything. The order has trained you well, so you know how to ride, you know how to travel through the wilderness, you know how to shoot a bow, you know how to shoot an arbalest, which is like a crossbow, a more simple version of a crossbow. You obviously know melee weapons fairly well, one-handed, two-handed, shield, and polearm, etc. So your baseline level of competence in all these different fighting abilities and travel and adventure skills are already assumed. The things that you stack on top of that, you are good among the other arbiters in that specific field. So even a character, unless you have like a poor skill, even somebody that just has average in something is considered better than a typical Sasaran. So, which goes into the skills. So there's 8 skills. And if you want to keep it simple, I have the standard skill array listed there on the character sheet, and you can just follow that along, and that makes a pretty well-rounded arbiter. If you've read ahead and read the actual draft rules, you can see that there's different options for different skill arrays. I think it's in the quick start rules too. And you can do one of those if you'd prefer. Mechanically, they're balanced. It just, you sacrifice some well-roundedness for more focus, or vice versa. And now what skills mean is if you have, the higher your skill rank, so like having exemplary, the more face values of a d6, so like 3, 4, 5, 6, count as 1 success. If you have a poor, it only is a 6, counts as a success. So if you roll a handful of die, someone who has exemplary has a much better chance of getting 1 or multiple successes than someone who has a poor skill. So bear in mind where you're putting your good ones and your not good ones. And the standard is 1 exemplary, 1 good, 1 poor, and the rest average. So 5 average. And then those, I would like to know your any ones that are different than average. That'll help me gauge obstacles.
Okay, I've got exemplary on awareness, poor on knowledge, and good on stealth.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a good awareness, exemplary coordination, poor influence, average knowledge, poor logic, something in might. I forgot to mark that. Good resistance and average stealth. I'll figure out what the other one should be.
I think the other might should, with that array, should be poor, but I'm not sure. Double check that on that array.
Yeah, I'll get back to you in a second.
I think it's in the quick start rules. Yeah, I don't have it pulled up.
So Kevlar has good influence, poor logic, good resistance, poor stealth, and exemplary might.
So you're just strong and loud.
It seems so.
Okay. And
I
you're just
like other stuff, but due to the compassion changes, I thought, hey, why not? We'll just
That's
go.
great. So,
okay. Average might. Found it.
Average might. Okay, great. So, Rich, since Kevlar is, you said, was it good or exemplary on influence?
His influence is good.
Good.
Not exemplary.
Okay, so that would definitely mean you don't have to be like a smooth talker or anything. You don't even have to talk. That just literally means any kind of leadership role over time, your character probably would have been preferred out of a group of people with average influence. So even if you didn't try, if you just sort of stood in a room, just by your very kind of presence, the elder arbiters would have preferred you to lead sort of like squads or whatever on quests. So that's kind of significant. Everything else, all the other skills are more geared towards actually doing your job well, but influence has an impact a little bit within the order. Now, someone said someone was good with stealth. Was that you, Yana?
Yes, good.
Okay. So similarly with influence, to some extent, stealth, some members of the order view stealth in combat to be dishonorable, and some don't. So since we're playing kind of the gray, gritty middle, I will say that I will not ding you for using stealth in combat, but if we were playing, you guys are all good guys, then I would. So that's something that's important. It's just an example of deciding upon the tone and everything. So like you could totally sneak up behind somebody and kill them from a stealth attack, and it wouldn't be considered dishonorable to your character. Just to be clear.
Thank you.
So once all of our skills are sorted out, you get one talent, and a talent is similar to like a fate aspect or something in that regard. It's a free-form, self-defined ability, but the one thing to remember with a talent is it's definitely something helpful, but it's not as prevalent as an entire skill category. So it can be a description of your character, like an adjective. So you could be like sneaky, or persuasive, or even something like a phrase like can run for a long time, and that works. Or it can be like a profession or something that's significant that happened in your background. So you could say like hunter, or even, I wouldn't allow arbiter because that would probably be a little bit too much, but you could say like warrior within the order and things like that. So it'll come into play when it's relevant. You'll get an extra die, an advantage die, what I call AD. So it's something useful, but it's narrower than a skill.
Cool. I was going with oration, and you said persuasive, and I thought that's much more to the point, so I'll stick with persuasive.
Sure. And what's interesting with persuasive, at least in the way I interpret it as an adjective, is it's more towards the positive side. It's more of a good connotation. So like using it to intimidate somebody wouldn't be necessarily relevant. Does that make sense?
Why would I intimidate anyone?
I don't know. Just I had one guy in one of the more recent playtest games that I ran, and he just built a straight up surrender master. He just made everybody quit. And he was just really scary, but he never fought. He just went up to everybody, was like, no, you don't want to fight. And they're like, yeah, you're right, I don't want to fight. And they would just quit. And meanwhile, people were dying and fighting over around. He'd just walk up to people and no. And they'd just put their gun down or whatever.
Time out.
And, yeah. So it's totally an acceptable avenue to go with an arbiter. But so for persuasive, it'll be more charming and convincing people rather than intimidating or trying to make them surrender or something like that.
Cool.
Okay, and Alex, Yana?
I was thinking a quick draw. Not very creative, but
no, that's
goes
cool.
well with my 2 revolvers.
Yeah, totally.
I was thinking maybe tracking, because that would go nice with the stealthy. Maybe my family was being hunters or something.
Yeah,
that's why
you could even just do
stealth
hunter.
and tracking.
Yeah, I would even just do. You could do hunter if you want, but if you want tracking, because tracking is a little bit narrower, I would probably make that a little stronger.
Hunter is good.
So yeah, I mean, hunter has a whole bunch of applications, because you could use that. You're like, oh, we're hungry. Oh, Yana disappears, and an hour later comes back with a deer or whatever. So.
I might switch my quick draw to trick shot.
Okay.
Since he's all about not killing people with his guns.
Sure. Yeah, so it would be like shooting people's hands or arming them or whatever. Okay. Totally. And your guns are handguns, right, Alex?
Yes,
Okay.
revolvers.
Like revolvers. Okay.
Equivalent of.
Yeah, they can look however you want, because, like I said, people have cobbled them together. It's just the guts of it is a forebearer technology. Yeah. So think more cobbled together Mass Effect rather than, or a Halo gun rather than Wild West.
Okay. They look like revolvers with some weird lighting, inner lighting.
Cool. Like it.
And some blue lights inside.
Sure. Very sci-fi. Yeah. Blue lights. So, okay. So does everyone have their talent and their skills and their tenets and everything sorted out?
Yes.
Okay. Sounds good. So, what I will do, where would you guys, since we have about an hour and 10 minutes or so, hour and 20 minutes, where would you like to start? And in terms of the path of your journey, I'm totally fine with fast forwarding through some parts or montaging through some parts. Do you want to start at the enclave with which you are being assigned and then leaving, and then now it's on the road, or do we want to just in media res. You guys are on the road for the last X days, and here we go.
Suggestion. I'd like to start the morning when we find out that something has happened to all of our food.
Okay.
Just throwing it out there. If you guys have better ideas, go for it.
So, on the road?
Okay.
I hope so.
That was quick. We haven't even...
That's a big deal, but yeah. Does that work for you, Yana?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Sure. So, let me describe a little bit of the basics of the setting before we get into the actual details of your characters. So, I'll use layman's terms quickly, not in setting terms, just because we're on a bit of a time crunch. You guys are in a space station that's been built to resemble a planet that's inverted. So you're in a sphere. You walk around on the inside of the sphere rather than the outside. So there's some weird effects that occur from that. When you look out, rather than seeing the horizon curve like this and away in the distance, it curves up and away from you forever. So you can see like 5,000 miles away from you if you just keep looking, out in towards the distance. So and you'll see like a city. You can actually look down and see the city is perpendicular to you at a certain range. So bear that in mind. Also, since you're inside of a sphere, there's no sky. There's no external sun or anything like that. So there's giant, just gray, ambient light from the heavens, and no one knows how it works. No one understands celestial bodies. There's no such thing as a sun. There's no such thing as stars. It's just kind of a gray, diffuse light 99% of the time. The times it does change, it'll cycle through like a day and night cycle occasionally, but the systems that control that lighting are broken. So it's not regular. That makes crop planting very difficult. That makes sleep cycles difficult. So you're always, and everyone, this is partially the reason why everyone is a little bit on edge and a little bit kind of more prone to violence, is that no one has ever really rested and no one has ever really relaxed. So keep that in mind kind of as an undercurrent. Your character, however many years old they are, has never known anything different. You do also get some weird other effects from that. So just keep that in mind. The terrain, or the region that you guys are in, I'll have you be traveling near the Vahina River, which is the largest river in the world, and it is one of the more heavily populated areas. But because of the way Sasara is constructed, there's very dense urban zones, like a city-state, and then nothing for a long time. Not a village, not a town, not a waypoint. There's just 100 kilometers of wilderness, and then another, arguably, metropolis. So you guys are not going to have a ton of opportunity to, like, oh, I know of a village over here that we can go and stop at. It's like, no, you are 6 days away from the next settlement in any direction you go, or whatever. So keep that in mind with your character. There's not like somewhere you can run to and hide all the time. Also, every so often, somewhat at random, Sasarans don't understand why they were placed where they were placed, but there are Forebear ruins, and these are enormous monolithic structures that sometimes can be 100 kilometers tall. So they look almost like mountains. They look completely alien and bizarre. Most Sasaran cities are built with stone. Picture like a 14th century Mediterranean kind of architecture, so like Spain, Italy, things like that, Armenia. But then there's this skyscraper nearby from the time before. So there's this sort of weird dichotomy that happens, and most people don't like to go over there and go near them because they're scary and they're full of evil energies, and there's Adabuta, which are these kind of like monstrous people that live near them. So most of the time, to be safe, you skirt them because you don't know what's over there. If you're in a pickle, though, you can maybe find one and use one as cover. Sometimes there's storms that are really violent, so you might not have a choice. Any other kind of basic questions that your characters would definitely know about the setting, or just something you're not wrapping your mind around that I can help clarify before we start.
What do we eat? We hunt, right? We talked about deer, so...
Yep, there's definitely animals, and there's the most common food that everybody eats in Sasara is called ruca fruit. And if you can picture a mix between an avocado and a yam, that's pretty close to what it looks and feels like. It has a little bit more of a creamy texture like an avocado, but it doesn't have a pit inside of it. And they are extremely fast to grow and extremely hardy, so much so that most people can have a bush in their house. They grow in like a little vine kind of shrub, and that's enough to feed a family. So rather than having large farmland in most cities, everybody has their own little small garden, and ruca fruit is ubiquitous in the same way that like rice would be. So it's eaten with almost every meal, and it's prepared in an endless number of ways. But a lot of fish, especially since your guys, you're growing up in this area, you're near the Vahina River, which is, a 200-yard wide river. So it's definitely full of fish and birds and other creatures like that live off of the water.
Well, I think I would live off the ruca fruit and other vegetation because of my vow of not killing.
Yep, a lot of Sasarans are vegetarian. Yep, and that's not a hard stretch to survive. This is actually one of the few lands where that's reasonable, even in medieval level of technology.
And something just happened to our food, and we're in the middle of nothing. You will be getting really hungry soon.
I made a vow.
Oh no.
So we'll start with that. But any last questions?
I might need to just do a quick drop out and rejoin because Dice Stream isn't showing up for me. But that should take 2 seconds.
I'll wait a second. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Any other questions, Yana or Rich?
Not yet. I'm sure there will be when we start actually playing.
Yeah. So I'll wait for Alex to get back. The core mechanic is very simple. All you guys need are D6. So and if you're going to use Dice Stream, then that's fine. So yeah, I'll wait till he gets back, and then we'll get going.
Cool. So yeah, it looks like he's coming right back. Where are you at on the Kickstarter while we're waiting for everything?
Oh yeah, we just crossed $3,000 this morning, which was the first stretch goal. So I'm really excited to announce I have a special artist lined up to do a special high detail cover illustration for the book, and I'll be posting a Kickstarter update on that probably when we're done. So in the next hour and a half or so.
Cool.
But yeah, we're funded and just knocking down the stretch goals now, with a week left.
And 3,500 is the next goal I see, and what you do is EPUB and Mobi formats for the game?
That's right. So anyone who's purchased or pledged the $10 or up level, which includes the PDF of the game, they also get an EPUB and a Mobi format of the game.
Very cool.
Yep.
Nice.
All right, so let me go over the core mechanic really quickly. It's very simple. It's only D6. Rolls are not spammed in Vow of Honor, which is something a lot of players have sort of a hard time wrapping their mind around. You roll maybe 3 or 4 times a session. So, and the reason for that rarity of rolling is because you spend your dice. You have honor dice, and you spend those to be able to roll. And you always have at least 1 die for free. But you gain honor die from doing honorable things, observing your tenets, going out of your way to help other people, so on and so forth. And the more honor dice you have, the more you can spend on a roll. You cannot roll more than 10 dice ever at a single task. To put that into perspective, though, the hardest challenges, a single roll challenge, is a 5 difficulty, so you would need to get 5 successes in order to overcome it, and that would be something like really crazy, like chopping an arrow out of the air with a sword. That's like very difficult level. So most things, like 95% of the tasks, are going to be 1 or 2 difficulty. And that even is like beating up bandits. I might have 5 bandits count as difficulty 1. So you would roll like 3 die and get 1 success, and I would narrate how your character just beat up those bandits. So don't throw away your dice. And that's something that I kind of warn in the book as well. Don't be frivolous with them, because anytime you roll 0 successes on a roll, I have the option of making your life hard. So I give you a related consequence. It could be story related. It could be related to the task right now. But it just gives the GM ammo to make your life suck and to make the story more complicated and interesting. So you always want at least 1 success. And we'll get into the nitty-gritty if it ever comes up, but that's kind of the core mechanic of it. And success, again, is determined based on your skill rank. So whenever you're rolling, just refer to whatever skill. So you say, like, I'm rolling 3d6 for influence, and they all came up as 1s. Well, you got no successes. But if you had exemplary and you got a couple of 3s in there, well, now you just got 2 successes. So just remember your skill rank, and that should be it. It's pretty much the whole system. So we'll zoom in here on our scene.
Oh, wait. One question. How many honor dice we do have?
Right. So the default usually is 5, but I'm going to start you guys off with 10 because I want you to. We're going to power through some stuff. So
we all have 10 each.
You all have 10.
Wow.
And remember your maneuvers too. You can spend honor dice to trigger them. So if there's a, like Rich, you have the ability to ignore injury, I believe. So you catch an arrow to the face and you're going to die. You can spend an honor dice to not die right now and maybe kill the bad guy and then die later. So remember that.
Nice. I have a feeling that's foreshadowing.
No, probably not. We'll see. I don't know. So any last questions before we go in character?
I'm not sure about how the thing works. The each honor dice spent is an automatic success toward canceling an opponent's difficulty derived from dishonor, but I guess you will tell me whenever that's actually possible to use.
Yeah, sure. So, but in general, what that would be for is, say, like a guy is being sneaky or lying. Those are kind of seen as like dishonorable things, or he is, I don't know, hiding behind an innocent civilian to make it difficult for you to hit him. You could spend those honor dice in that situation, and it would cancel out whatever mechanical advantage that he has to do that.
Okay.
Anything else?
Good to go.
All right. We're on. So, again, the party of 3 arbiters has been on the road for about 4 days now, traveling south along the Vahina River, and they left from their enclave in the Tasali city to go to a smaller town called Lhasa. And Lhasa is a relatively small and isolated village, but it is unique in that it is one of the few settlements that has been built among forebear pylons, which are sort of these obelisk-like structures. It's a small series, or little archipelago of islands among and along the coast of the river as it sort of opens up into the mouth of the ocean. And so it's a very unique architecture, and it's important to Sali specifically for some of the trade and some of the other rare materials that Lhasa will bring. So it's a high priority issue for your enclave to oversee them. And there is a small enclave there that has about 10 arbiters, but they have not responded. And no one is sure why, but it's been about a month since anyone has heard from the arbiters there, and it's been several weeks since any trade caravans or anything have come from Lhasa, which normally they come every couple days. So it's assumed that there's either something on the road that's making it difficult for them to travel, or the city itself is in some sort of trouble. Last message from an arbiter was that there were early signs of some sort of plague, and they didn't know what had caused it or if it was going to become endemic. But they were concerned that it was creating illness within the relatively small confines of the city. And as such, you guys have been equipped with relative wide array of curatives and herbs, and you also have, and you can choose among yourself who has it. You have one Forebearer piece of tech with you that is basically like a very sophisticated healing kit. So you can, it's sort of like a cure-all, almost magical in quality, in that you can put it on somebody. It's a small little silver device, and they get better in about a day or two, whatever is ailing them. It can't like regenerate limbs, but if you have like a cut on your stomach and it's not immediately life-threatening, it'll just seal it right up. So you have one of those, and it's very valuable. It's worth more to the order than all three of you. So don't lose it. Who is carrying it?
I don't have the greatest knowledge, so I don't think I would have been given it.
I've got poor in knowledge, so definitely not.
I have it, of course. I'm very strong. It won't bother me. It's not very heavy.
Okay. So, like I said, it's about the size of a palm, of your palm. It's pretty small. And that's fine. You can tuck it away. It's hard. It's like a hard plastic and metal disc, so you can put it in your pack. One other quick note is all Arbiters wear their vestments out in the open. So they have like a tunic or a cloak or some sort of insignia, a scarf, that has the sigil of the Order of Hasan on it, which is the perfect ratio. I don't know if you guys have seen on the Kickstarter page at all or not. They wear it on some of their sashes and whatnot. It's basically a series of rectangles that are within the Fibonacci sequence of the perfect ratio, and are sometimes called the golden spiral. And the vestments have to be worn publicly, otherwise it's viewed as dishonorable and dishonest. So you all clearly, and it's usually like a bright color. Like you might have grubby gray and brown clothes on everything else, and then a bright purple sash that has the symbol on it. So it's very evident, even from a distance, that you are Arbiters. So just to make that clear, when I have people react to you, that's why.
Nice.
So, like I said, you've been on the road now for several days. You're at about halfway point between Thessaly and Lhasa, and the road has been relatively arduous. There's been a series of what are called pillar storms, and that's what happens when the sky has alternating pillars or beams of light and dark. And the light areas are very hot and the dark areas are very cold, and it makes it very difficult for you to travel at any kind of consistent pace. And it also has other weird effects on the foliage and the creatures in the area. They kind of freak out when this is happening. So that's been plaguing you for the last several days and making your journey more difficult. So you're all a little bit on edge, you're all tired. You camped for the night and you woke up the following rest cycle, kind of put out your fire, and you're in your little all-weather sort of like fur teepee-like tent, and you realize that whoever had the pack of food, they open it. You have like some dried ruca fruit and some whole ones as well that are fresh, and they are completely devoured by some sort of like mealworm, some kind of like maggot-looking creature. So they're just completely ruined. There's nothing you can do to restore them, and that was all of your trail rations that you had on the way to Lhasa. So now you're forced to either starve for the next several days, which is quite difficult since you're traveling by foot, or find some new food. It's the early morning, it's cold, there's these weird columns of light and dark all around you, and you're in this kind of like a small furry tent.
So who had the food?
Kevlar.
It seems that the creators have decided these mealworms will feast, and we have another challenge.
You're so optimistic always.
Why not be optimistic? This is a brilliant journey that we must take. It's only another couple days.
But we must eat something. We can't really eat those worms, can we?
The land will provide. It always does.
Gee. Let's gather the tent.
All right. So as you pack up, you're already starting to feel a little bit hungry. You know, you're burning 9,000 calories a day easily from walking up and down this very hilly terrain along the coast of the river. So you know that the 3 days without food ahead of you will be very, very painful by the time that you get there. But you pack up fine and get your gear squared away. So what I'll do is I will segue this into either a travel montage or a find food montage or some kind of combination thereof. And if you choose to roll, you have the opportunity to succeed. Otherwise, if you don't choose to roll, I'll just give you what I think is thematically interesting, parentheses, difficult and hard for you.
I choose to roll.
Okay. So describe, you know, in over the course of a day, we'll say, or 8 hours at least, what are you doing are you looking for food? Are you trying to conserve your energy by the way that you're moving? You know, describe kind of briefly in a general sense what your characters are doing.
I think we should hunt, at least try to.
I think I'd be keeping my eye out for foliage plants that I would know would
edible
provide.
plants?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I'm making sure that Oriole is hunting because I'm not very good at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I am absolutely
And
hunting.
Rose.
So-
Like a skill.
Me hunting when Rose is not seeing what I'm doing.
Okay.
I know that other people can't be kept to my standards.
Oh, aren't you on a high horse?
And I know that means more meat for me.
Yes, and for me.
Okay,
I
so
am
I'll
committed to
go in
my-
order on my screen just to keep it organized for me. So, Alex, what would Roos, do you want to elect to roll? And remember, you always get 1d6 for free, so that doesn't cost you any honor die. You can always just chance it, but if you don't get a success with that, it'll be worse than if you didn't roll.
Well, I'll possibly using my awareness.
Yeah, awareness is visual perception and hunting for things that you know. So, and I'll give you even an AD, so you get another die for free because your character is a vegetarian. So you know lots of things about, you know, edible vegetables and plants.
So that's my awareness is good. So I just need a 4 or
Good is 4, 5, or 6.
4, 5, 6, and I've already got 2 dice. So I'll use 1 more honor dice.
Okay.
So give me 3, and one more, and roll. I got 1 success.
1 success. Okay, great. So I'll narrate because these are all happening simultaneously. So I'll narrate the effects of that at the end of this little encounter. So then, Rich, what would Kevlar be doing?
Is it possible for Kevlar to assist?
Totally.
Okay, then I would definitely like to help by flush game, or
Okay.
I'm using stories to keep Oriole focused on hunting.
Sure. So there's 2 ways you can do that. The easy way is you just say, I'm assisting, and you just are directed by whoever you're assisting, and you grant them 1 AD. So you don't roll, they just get an extra die. The other way is you can roll, and then this task is now segmented into your success or failure, and then the other person's success or failure, and what the final result of that is.
I'm going to roll dice.
Okay.
Cool. So I get 1 for trying, and then I can wager whatever honor dice
Correct.
I wish. Okay.
And if you convince me, you may get some advantage dice, just the way that, like, Roos got 1 because he's a vegetarian.
I'm not a vegetarian, nor am I very good at hunting. So I'm just going to ignore your advice, and I'll go ahead and wager 2 honor dice. So I'll be rolling 3 total dice.
Okay. Go ahead.
All right, here we go.
And what skill are you using?
Oh heck, that would be a good thing.
So if you're like trying to hunt and kill stuff, you could use awareness to find things. You could use knowledge to know where certain creatures hide. You could use logic to deduce from tracks. You could use might to try to like chop a deer's head off or something else like that. So there's a series, just tell me what you think is relevant, and it'll probably work.
I think my awareness and knowledge are both average, so I'll go with average. Although the idea of chopping off a deer's head is very appealing to my mind. I'm not going to do that. I want to, but I won't. Cool. So those are average, which means that success is on 5
5 or
plus.
6.
Okay. Oh, this is going to be bad. Here we go.
All right. You got 1 success. Okay. So for this scene, that counts towards the scene's total of successes. So I'll keep track of that. And then Yana, what would Oriole be doing?
I would be hunting using my awareness, which is exemplary, of course, and using my hunter ability. That would give me another die, right? So
Totally.
I could do. Yeah, that's about it. I guess I will use 1. Just in case, 1 of the honor dice. I really want this to work, so 3 dice. Trying to, say to Keller, don't tell me those stories. Like, shh, you have to be quiet. We're hunting. No, the game is running away. No. Shh.
And would you? Nice. So you got 2 successes. So would you? Would you be trying to use your hand? Would you be using a weapon? And you guys can have multiple weapons. You could have a bow and your gun if you want. That's totally fine.
Well, I have my machete, and if it's not like a lion, if it's a deer, I'm probably going to try to sneak there, and I think it's more honorable to just go closer to it and give it some kind of chance and then just cut its throat.
Okay. Totally logical. Great. All right, so over the course of about 4 hours, you continue to move south. The area that you rested in, you chose because it was relatively dry and rocky, so it also was not very full of game and plants. But as you head downhill, you get into more of a valley. And Roos is able to find a number of edible vegetables. He even finds a wild ruca vine that has very underripe ruca, but they're edible, especially if they're kind of ground down. The peels are too hard, but they can be opened and eaten. And while Kevlar and Oriole are kind of continuing to move, trying to be more stealthy, Kevlar is mostly watching and kind of distracting. They come across a deer, and the deer is definitely looking over towards Kevlar, who's quite far away from Oriole, and Oriole's able to sneak up behind it, and as she said, just slip her machete right into its right under its rib into its heart, and just pulls it out, and it's dead instantly. So you have a nice 200-pound deer with probably about 80 pounds of usable meat, but you can take less than that, of course. So you'll have plenty of food and probably enough to help some other folks if you're able to carry all of that. So would Oriole, how much would she take of the animal?
As much as I can, definitely,
Okay.
because we're going to a place where people have been probably sick for a while, so I'm sure they will need all the food we can bring them.
Okay, so if you can skin it and clean it and butcher it and everything expertly fine. I won't make you roll for that, but be aware that with the extra, even if it's evenly distributed among the 3 of you, with the extra 25 pounds or so a piece, that will burden you a little bit more.
It is not a burden.
Okay.
Feed many sick people.
If it is for the greater good, I can carry some of the meat.
Oh, Roos, you carry some meat that you will not partake. How honorable.
I have enough sustenance with the bounty that the forest has given me. Perhaps you would like some.
Yeah, but it wouldn't take.
It is not too tough.
Rose, we can trade. I've got some nice deer meat here.
Thank you, but no.
So, as that scene kind of concludes, with every Vow of Honor scene, I then mete out what observances or violations occurred. So every time you do something that falls in alignment with the Tenets of Honor, that's considered an observance, and you check that on your little checkbox next to the appropriate tenet. If you do something that breaks it, that's a violation. Again, vice versa. You want observances, you don't want violations. So you all got one of commitment and compassion. So now if you have either of those, or both, as an oath-sworn tenet, it doubles. It counts as 2.
So it was commitment and
compassion.
Yeah.
And the commitment was from you didn't lose heart, you immediately went and tried to find new food, and not only that, but you're willing to get more than you need so that you can bring it and not be wasteful and give it to other people, hopefully in the future. So any questions about your honor dice? You get, and of course you get 1 honor die per observance back. So if you had a double, you would get 2.
Can we go over our maximum, or do we just go to our maximum?
No, you can
Like
carry more than 10 honor die. You just can't spend more than 10 die in a single roll.
Okay.
So you could have, I've had a guy stockpile. He had like 55 honor dice at one point. So and that's fine.
So I had 10. I spent 2 in my roll, but I got double observance on commitment and compassion, which means that's 4 back. So I'm 2 to the good.
Sounds good. Sounds right.
Feeling super honorable for hunting deer with my friend.
It's your intention behind what you're doing, not so much what you're doing. So, okay. So, like I said, it was about 4 hours or so past. So it's lunchtime. You guys can, take a quick break and eat some of the freshly butchered deer and some of the newly found ruca fruits and some of the other edible vegetables that Roos encountered.
I grimace slightly as you throw down the meat.
Yeah.
But don't comment.
They're probably eating it raw too, since you're not really taking time to cook it or anything like that, which it's fine. So as you continue moving south along the Vahina, you get to a point where, and you guys are well versed in the area, kind of roughly where everything is. You get to a point where the Vahina has a branch. There's another river that you have to cross, and there's a bridge there. Now, your choice is to go over the relatively well-traveled bridge along the road. You can try to dip down into the relatively steep cliff face that has been cut by the Vahina, or you can try to go around it to the east, which will add about another hour or so to your trip to get to the next bridge. The only reason you wouldn't want to go to this bridge is because it's well known for bandits and people who try to steal, or even just like panhandlers or people who are in need of some kind. And it's about 20 minutes away, so you can kind of discuss this as you're traveling that direction.
You should head to the bridge, I think.
People are in need. We must make haste. I agree.
It's a little bit risky. I mean, what if we get smuggled by whatever people there are and they take the meat? Or even worse, the cure?
Against 3 arbiters? That would be not wise. And if they need food, should we not aid them as well?
Perhaps they did not choose this life. If they are hungry, then maybe we will save them from assaulting others.
Okay, I can't argue with you guys. That's 2 solid, good points. So let's head towards the bridge.
So the consensus is to go on the road to the bridge. Okay, so another, like I said, 20 minutes or so pass, and you've been on a relatively flat stretch, and you get to the last final hill. You crest it, and once you get to the apex of the hill, and you're in a relatively heavily forested area, you can look down and see this stone bridge. It's a very simple stone arched bridge with kind of low handrails on the side, or low walls. And you can see nothing immediately looks pressing. However, there is a small, what looks like a cooking fire or a campfire on the south side of it. So the direction that you need to go, there's a single kind of column of smoke being wisped up into the sky. But you don't see anybody or anything else.
Maybe we should sneak in closer to see where the smoke is coming from.
Perhaps that is wise, Arbiter Beners.
Perhaps, but that's not a skill that I've ever been terribly effective. I'm not. Perhaps you should go, Oreo.
Yes, we definitely weren't suggesting you go first.
I can do that. I can do some scouting, but don't eat all my meat rolls while I'm away.
Quite.
Also, one quick note, it is totally acceptable to call someone by their title of Arbiter name, but usually among Arbiters, they will refer to each other as brother or sister. And then, so they'll say like brother Roos.
Good luck, sister.
Sister Oriole or whatever. And that's just the kind of the common nomenclature, but you can call each other by whatever you want.
I kind of like the brother-sister thing. Yeah.
So, Oriole, you're going to sneak forward ahead of the rest of the party and try to check out what the smoke is, okay?
Yes.
So, how far back? Are you guys going to stay on the hill, or are you going to get kind of close? Because right now you're about maybe 500 meters away from the bridge.
I think I would like to approach as well, not get quite as near as Sister Penrose, but at least within shooting range if needed.
Sure, okay.
I'm by the hill. I have these boots. They're very loud.
Okay, so you stay way back.
Yes, I'll run up ahead if need be.
Okay, and that might become relevant, your sprinting speed. So, Oriole, go ahead and roll a stealth. Describe to me, so let me just describe the scene a little bit. You've been traveling on a road. It's not a cobbled road. It's not muddy or anything, but it's not particularly well maintained. It's just like dirt with sort of a gravel mixed into it. But there are a fair amount of trees, and then as you get closer to the river, the foliage and underbrush gets a lot thicker. So it's easier for you to visually sneak through, but it will be noisier. Or you can go into the water, but it's quite cold.
I'm going into water.
Okay.
Definitely.
So what I'll have you roll then, definitely roll a stealth, and then gain 2 advantage dice for being in the water. But you will also have to roll a resistance because of the cold.
So that's 2 different rolls.
Two different rolls. That's right. So
I have
resolve
3.
the stealth first, and then resolve the resistance.
I've got 3 for the stealth, so I'm going with that.
Okay.
Oh my God! No, I'm not stealthy at all.
Okay. And you have, was it exemplary stealth or good stealth?
Good. It's good.
Okay, so no successes. Okay.
No successes.
All right. Let me make a note here.
And the resistance, that's only 1 die, right?
You can spend extra if you'd like, but that's the default, is only 1 die, yeah.
I'm using one. Hey, kitty, get away from my papers. So I'm using one of the honor dice and rolling 2. I am not lucky because that's only average.
Okay.
Oh no.
All right. So I'm going to pause you and leave you in suspense for a moment. I will give either of you, Roos or Kevlar, an opportunity to see Oriole's plight if you so choose. If you're not watching her that closely and you're more just kind of focusing on the bridge, then it doesn't count. It won't matter. But if you're like watching her go down into the water and see what happens, then you can try to roll an awareness or something to see if you see her.
I think I would have been watching.
Okay.
Go ahead, Roos. You're watching.
Yeah. So get 1 roll, and then I have to choose if I want to spend more.
Right. Now, just to be clear, and I usually like to make the stakes more obvious in these instances, nothing will directly happen to you from you failing, but you may not realize that Oriole's in trouble. So that's kind of the consequences if you fail your roll.
Okay, well, I've got a lot of honor dice at the moment, so I'm going to spend
feel
2
free
of
to.
them.
Yeah.
And I've got a good awareness.
Right.
2 successes.
Okay.
Nice.
I was on the ball.
So as I'll describe, as Oriole kind of stalks away, gets into the more of the heavy, dense tree line area, into the bushes, she's hunkered down. The ground is a lot more loose than you thought, Oriole. So when you kind of put the weight on your boot and you're trying to get a better vantage point, you just slide much faster and loosely than you thought you would, and you plonk into the water completely unintentionally. even though you meant to go into the water at some point, you didn't mean to right there. And you kind of gasp in surprise from the cold, and water just sucks into your mouth and into your lungs. So you kind of float back up, but all burdened down from all of your gear, your heavy cloak, and now there's 25 extra pounds of deer meat that you have. You're definitely barely able to stay buoyant as you're kind of drowning. And in a slight panic, you are, flailing around and splashing in the water and trying to recover. Other entities see you, so I'll describe that kind of in the next round, but in this instance, you just resurface, you're kind of choking on water, and Roos sees this while Kevlar is kind of hanging back, and I'll even just give it to you for free, Kevlar, since Roos rolled so well. You see him react like in shock or in fear or however Roos describes himself, but you can see Roos react negatively to something that Oriel does.
Brother Kevlar, our sister is in need. I'm dumping my pack, or if I hadn't already, on the ground and heading towards the river.
Okay, so are you just hauling it over there, or?
Yeah, I'm gonna dive in and start
so
swimming towards her.
full out. Okay, and what's Kevlar doing?
I'll take off like a shot right behind Roos. Yeah, this is not good. We can talk about that campfire some other time.
Okay. Now the water is not particularly fast moving. It's just cold. It's a wide river. It's not so much a strongly currented river. So you're able to get in the water, no problem. Do you want to throw a line to her, or do you want to climb into the water, or how are you trying to retrieve Oriel?
I would throw a line. I've got the disc and I've got food and supplies, so. Yeah,
you have rope. I mean, you have general adventure sundries. That's fine.
Yeah. I'm thinking. I didn't think that far ahead. I jumped in, so maybe I could be like taking one end of the rope.
Yeah,
to
totally.
make sure it does, in case she is struggling.
And Oriel seems mildly incognizant. She's, almost because of the situation of kind of trying just to not drown, she's not really paying attention to what's happening. So Roos is able to catch up quickly, but since you dove into the water, Roos, I will need you to roll a resistance as well.
Yeah, so one for free.
And then Kevlar, go ahead and roll me a might to hang on to the rope.
Oh, that sounds great.
I got one success.
Okay, so you're fine for now.
Yeah.
Because I have an exemplary might, I'm success on 3. I'm gonna go ahead and I'll spend 2 honor dice for that, and so that's a success.
Wow.
Nice.
It's okay. It'll come back to me soon.
So Oriel, as you're coughing and spluttering and kind of regaining control over yourself and realizing what's happening, you feel arms sort of grabbing onto you and like kind of a rough like hempen rope sort of lashing. It hits your cheek and your neck, and then it's kind of is like wrapping around your body. And you maybe kind of try to fight it off briefly, but as you turn to see, it's Roos who's jumped in the water. And Roos and Oriel now both look up to their left on the bank of the river where the smoking fire was, and they see an assembly of about 5 or 6. They're not sure in all the fracas of everything. 5 or 6 people there sitting around a camp. Definitely hard men. They're not farmers. They're probably bandits or nomads or travelers or something like that, but they're just kind of hanging out at lunchtime. So, Roos, you've managed to tie the secure line around Oriel. You guys are both safe. You're both upright and buoyant in the water. And Kevlar, I assume at that point would be when you would kind of try to haul them in.
Yeah. I'm just kind of wrapping it around an arm and pulling.
Right. And your 2 successes are great, and you guys very quickly and swiftly move countercurrent and back up onto the north side of the bridge where Kevlar was, and you're kind of coughing and spluttering. He's down on the muddy bank of the water, and you both are safe and on the dry ground again, or wet ground, but ground.
Yeah.
Whew, no more sneaking for me.
Yes, I feel that our sneaking has perhaps not gone quite as planned.
No, it seems to be much more dangerous than I imagined it would be.
So
Thank you.
you hear, as she says, much more dangerous than I imagined it be, a kind of like, not really like a horn, but it may be like a flute or a pipe or a trumpet of some kind of instrument or sound that's not really like a whistle sound or go off, and the definitely jingle jangle and creaking and cracking of leather and metal pieces of equipment moving as people are running over the bridge.
It seems
Brother,
the
sister.
creators have deemed that we will make this bridge safe.
That's one way to put it.
The foolishness of men. That is.
Cool.
So you have about
That's great.
10 seconds or so before whoever's approaching has a good line of sight on you. So describe if you guys are just hanging out, are you looking passive or submissive, or are you trying to get to arms? Describe what you're doing.
I'm taking my gun out, but I'm also hiding behind a tree.
Okay.
I would want to try and tackle this situation without violence first.
Mhm. And remember, most people in Sasara know or respect Arbiter's capabilities, at least. So you can get kind of, that pushes you a little bit farther. You can sort of not be threatening, but a little naturally, you're a little innately intimidating because of who you are. It would be like a cop or a knight or somebody, who's in trouble. Most people wouldn't necessarily want to attack that person.
Brother Kevlar, perhaps you could discuss the situation with them before we have to resort to more extreme action.
I'll see what I can do, brother. So he's got his scabbarded sword out in his left hand, his off hand, so he can draw it at a moment's notice. And he's going to start walking towards them.
I will
Okay.
walking
Get out
behind
of
him, just to the side slightly.
Nice, and I'm trying to
Not
keep.
drawing quite.
Okay, and Oriole, I want Oriole to have range, so I won't walk briskly. Kind of.
Yeah, I will try to also kind of sneak stealthily because I'm so very good at it. Around them to get behind them, just in
Okay.
case.
Sure. So I'll resolve that in a second. I'm going to see what is immediately happening, because that's going to take some time for you to loop around. So that they're going to engage in conversation before that can take place. So then I'll have you roll when that's relevant, if you still choose to do that. So as Kevlar and Roos approach, they kind of remount the hill where the pylon and the plinth is that holds the bridge together. This old stone bridge. They come up upon this kind of grassy hill or hillock, and they see 5, like I said, hardened, grizzled, road-weary folks who are standing there in front of them, and they all immediately look gaunt, hungry, and sickly, but they also have a sort of craven, murderous glint in their face. So when they see, they were fully, it seems to you, they were fully anticipating to fight you, but now that they see it's arbiters, they kind of hesitate. So before anyone responds or speaks, you see them, they have hands on hilts. One guy in the back has a halberd. One of them has an arbalist, which is like a crossbow, and they're, they were clearly coming to fight or intimidate whoever was here, but now that they see that there's 2 arbiters, they've stopped. So you're about 10 meters apart from each other. They're on the bridge still, and you're right at the mouth of it.
I wave.
Okay, yeah, you can. I mean, a hand high is like a
Yeah.
universal gesture. So they kind of like, you hear like nervous mumbles as they look around at each other, and clearly one who's maybe in charge kind of snorts like a heavy laugh, like, ha, as you raise your hand in greeting, and is walking forward and has his wrist dangling over the pommel of a sword.
Greetings. I am Arbiter Kevlar. Who are you, sir?
and he just kind of like looks and smirks to the other guys there, and they see your ruse is wet and kind of involuntarily shivering a little bit, and says, "We're not ones to reveal our names to the Order, if you're so kind. If you remove your arms and head back north, we'll just call it square." And all the men kind of behind him are like, yeah, definitely bolstered by this guy's lack of fear of you. In the meantime, this is enough of a delay to give Oriel time to try to sneak. It will be hard for you to sneak all the way behind them because you'll basically have to cross the river since they're on the bridge. But you can definitely get perpendicular to them.
Yes,
so it'd be
that's what I want to do. Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead and roll a stealth. And it will be against their awareness difficulty, which I'll keep secret for now, but your character does not think that they're particularly aware, but they did see you in the water. So something to think about.
Okay, I'm gonna use 2.
Okay.
So I'm down 6.
Oh, one other note. Observances and violations, or observances specifically, don't go into effect until the end of the scene. So you can definitely, don't be expecting me to give you honor dice during a scene, which this is still considered within a timed scene. But at the end of it, you may get a whole bunch of them. So, but go on. Sorry, Yana.
Yay! My stealth is good. So 4 is good enough. Yes.
Great. So even you two, looking for Oriel, being sneaky and aware of her stealth skill, you just realize she kind of disappears over there somewhere to your left. And you're not quite sure exactly where she is.
I smile slightly.
So these two, or this man in front, is probably going to get hostile with you based on what you say here. So if you care for your words to have mechanical weight, then roll. But go ahead and respond in character. When they said, drop your arms and turn back north, and we'll call it square.
Friend, I sadly could not give up my arms. It's almost a family heirloom. It would bring me great shame to hand this over. I apologize.
He kind of chuckles and he says, "We all have families too." And they all like, yeah, and elbow each other like, "Good one."
We have come to help your families. We understand that there's a sickness. In fact, some of you look unwell. We have things with us that will help to heal. We are traveling to Lhasa, and this is the most expedient method.
So roll an influence, but gain 3 advantage dice.
Nice. Now, each honor die I spin, can I attempt to make them compassionate here? Is that is that what you? Okay.
Yeah. So compassionate would be like making them less prone for violence or more willing, amicable to discussion.
Well, I've got the tenet maneuver of each honor die spent is an automatic success on skill rolls to attempt to make someone compassionate. So.
Yep. So you can just say I spend X honor dice for this many successes at making them compassionate. So you can say I spend 1, and there's 1 success. I spend 5, and there's 5 successes. Whatever. You still get your 3 rolls, your 3 advantage dice, so you can add into your successes even more so.
Now that's 3 advantage on top of what I default start, so 4 total.
So 4. Yeah.
Oh, sweet. That sounds awesome. And we are making an influence, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
And good is, I'm sorry, I still don't have it memorized.
4.
Yeah, 4 or better.
Yeah.
So I got 1 more success to add on top.
Okay. So plus, how many honor dice are you going to spend?
2.
Okay.
So that's 3 total.
3 total. Gotcha. So, and one of those advantage dice, just for some transparency purposes, was due to Ruse's words and help. So the fact that he's standing there and being amicable and talking, that wasn't a throwaway. So, as Kevlar kind of concludes or finishes speaking, they all really like the 4 men behind the leader sort of seem put back on their heels. They're definitely more so hesitant now to come to any kind of blows, and even the man with the arbalist that was resting over his forearm is now lowered and dropped his his aim to the floor or to the ground. And the leader is kind of troubled and furrows his brow, and he says, Lhasa is indeed sick. And he just kind of like nods to one of the men to his right, who you see has clearly some lesions, and kind of like his veins are very visible in his neck and face, and says that many have the wailing sickness, and just sort of indicates that this man is sick as well. By this time, Oriole, you are in position, so you have gone around some 50 meters or so. So if you want, you have a very clean shot on any of these guys from where you're at, from stealth.
Do I see that they're actually lowering their weapons a little bit?
You can see this, and you can hear this conversation. It's quite quiet here, so you can hear what they're saying.
I'm waiting at this point.
Okay.
I will reach into my pack slowly and pull out the disc, the healing kit.
Okay.
Come, friend. This is a forebear. This is technology that can help to heal the wailing sickness. It will also help us to understand it better.
And they seem immediately afraid of it when you are holding it up and revealing it to them. And it's very obvious that something is forebear tech. It's like holding up an iPhone in medieval Spain.
Nice.
So no one is like, oh, what is that? They're like, sorcery, get away from me. But everyone knows that it's forebear tech. It's immediately recognizable, and a lot of people have very strong fear of it, or some people are like lusting after it because of its value or rarity. So when you reveal that, it definitely has a significant impact on everybody. The leader in the front, he kind of licks his lips and looks at it hungrily, like he wants it. The other four, the weaker-minded of them, they are startled, but the one, after hearing you say that it can heal, the one who's very visibly sick and kind of slouched over, he takes a couple of almost involuntary steps forward eagerly. So you're making some headway in some of the group.
Yeah.
So Roos invites him to come?
Yeah, come, friend.
So he just like looks at the others, and they are quiet, and the leader kind of glares at him, but he sets his spear, he leans his spear against the plank of the handrail and starts walking forward. Oriole, since you are waiting, you will get an opportunity to react first. You two here, you'll have to roll if you choose. You don't have to. The leader's going to do something mean and violent right now. So you can roll an awareness to try to initiative him or actions him. But if you choose not to roll, then you will be too slow.
I'm too slow.
Okay.
So that was only for the two of them?
Yes, Oriole, you are going to get to go no matter what because you're prepared. You're on edge, waiting for something violent to happen already. They were not.
I would like to spend. Oh no. But I want to see what Penrose would do first. Before
Okay.
I would like to do a roll.
So you can wait. That's fine. You can hesitate slightly. If she misses, she could shoot you or something. So we'll see how that goes. So go ahead, Oriole, and describe. So you see the leader whose wrist was kind of, if you can imagine, like a pommel, from his hip. His hip is like this. You see him kind of do one of these numbers, and then his other hand comes over here, and by the time the guy crosses his path, he draws the blade and is going to kind of do like a underhanded stick into the guy's stomach or side.
His friend? The sick one?
His ally, yes.
I will shoot at the leader, definitely.
Okay. So go ahead and roll your coordination. In this instance, since it's your first shot, I would let you roll stealth too, but coordination is the more appropriate and has a lower difficulty.
Well, my coordination is average, whereas my stealth is good, so I will go with stealth.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
I'm using 2 of the dice again, so I'm down to 4.
Okay. And since you're in such good stealth, you're going to gain 2 advantage dice as well, so an extra 2 die for free.
Okay, wow. I totally made it. 3 successes.
3, very nice. Now describe, you're trained to shoot like people in modern day are trained to shoot for center body mass, shoot to kill. But like Roos does, he specifically aims not to kill and tries to shoot, people's hands or weapons or whatnot. So what are you just trying to end the conflict as fast as possible, or are you trying to shoot this guy's hand off, or what?
I am shooting to kill. He's very dishonorable. He's even, stabbing his friend, so...
Cool.
I really want to act, but...
So, Roos, and Kevlar both, as you see the leader, the dishonorable leader, just kind of like he has the blades out this way, and he's going to like do one of these type of deals, his head just explodes.
Yeah.
So there's just kind of like a pop of a ruca fruit of red melon goop that goes everywhere. And Oriole, a split second later, you hear the very loud whine and like thump sound that the Forebear guns make. So it's definitely like an energy sound, not like a bang sound. And you have revealed your position now, so you're no longer stealth. Everyone who didn't just die immediately does one of these deals and looks over towards that direction at whatever is causing the guy's head to blow up. Obviously, his body slumps to the ground, dead.
I kind of shake my head slightly in resignation.
So everyone is frozen, and Roos is like disappointed, but everyone is frozen, almost in shock.
But we did see that this guy was about to.
Yeah, he cleared the blade from his scabbard. It was obvious of his intent at that point.
I'll look up to Oriole and nod. We can still heal you, friend, but it seems that not everyone wanted you healed.
As soon as you finish that, the one in the rear, one of the more fearful ones, turns and starts to run away, just sprinting away. The other three, two of them kneel, like completely submissively. They drop their weapons, they put their hands up, they're on both of their knees, and the sickly one, he has viscera all splattered on his face from his leader who just got blown up, and he starts like limping kind of forward, and you can see how frail and thin this guy is, very obviously undernourished, and he's like reaching his hand out. He's like, yeah, and kind of coughs.
The one who's running away, he's the one who had the obelisk, the kind of crossbow thing?
Yes.
Has he still got it?
Yeah, but it's just clutched in one hand. He's just running away.
Can I shoot that out of his hand? Just in case.
You can.
Wow, that's an awesome trick shot.
And your trick shot is relevant here, so you can grab that talent bonus in.
That's already 2. Coordination?
Yes.
Alright, yeah. Okay. I'm gonna have to spend. I'm gonna spend 3.
Okay. Not accidentally shoot the guy in the head.
Yeah. So that's 2 successes.
Okay. Which is enough. So again, slightly different type of technology that Roos has, but draws his handgun very quickly, and you hear this big hiss and whine sound, and the guy, the arbalest, just gets shattered out of his hand like so much wood and metal, and he immediately stops and is like, in fear, and just kind of raises his hand up.
I'm gonna.
I just kind of shrug.
Okay.
Just in case.
I'm gonna walk to the others and ask if we should maybe feed them too, since we have the extra meat now.
It would be less to carry, and they are in need.
So I start preparing the meat.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and Kevlar, do you use the healing artifact on the Wailing Man?
Do I know how?
You were instructed. It's very simple. It's literally you just place the disc on the afflicted area and it goes away.
So I just okay, Google, heal.
Pretty much, yeah. You set it on his lymph node, and immediately, you start to see his sores. They kind of like ooze and then rapidly heal, and you see them like scab over, and his veins return to like a normal coloration, and he actually just like drops to the ground, overwhelmed with the like power of it. It's just sort of like on his hands and knees as he's like trembling from you. Just for a second. I mean, you just made contact, and then he dropped. So after that sort of initial shock of everything and the one guy being killed, one of the others who was younger and probably maybe 14 now that you see up close, and the kind of intensity of the scene has subsided. He's pretty cold-heartedly starts stripping the dead guy of his equipment, while the rest of you are kind of walking with them back to their little encampment. So he grabs the guy's sword, and then he pulls out his own dagger and starts like cutting things off of him of value, and a little bit mutilating and disrespectful, but he's not like cutting the body or anything.
I'm not sure what Ruth thinks of that.
It's not uncommon, but it's definitely frowned upon, if that makes sense. So you guys being sort of the moral gray zone, you could probably just ignore it and not feel too bad about that, but it's definitely as icky as it sounds.
Yeah, I would frown at it, but I'm not going to say anything since the man did act with horrendous dishonor.
Okay.
Kevlar's shocked. I don't think he's ever seen this.
Yeah, you're kind of like a neophyte, right? This was like your first real like away mission. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're definitely. This is disturbing amount of violence for sure.
Friend, we have food. Why are you defiling his body?
No need to waste. And just kind of like rips his hauberk off and throws it over his shoulder and grabs a dagger from the guy's boot and tucks it in his belt very quickly, as if he's done this to dozens of victims in this time. And he's, remember, quite young. He's like 14 maybe at the oldest.
Perhaps you men will come with us.
So the Wailing Man, he, as he kind of collects himself, and Oriole is, I assume, leading the rest of them to the camp to kind of prepare the meat and whatnot. Yes. And I'll montage through this part a little bit. He starts explaining what has happened in Lhasa, and that the whaling sickness became very strong, and they believed it was from the pylons that were there, the Forebear pylons, the homes that were closest around them, and they're these relatively small structures by Forebear standards, but they're about 30 to 40 meter diameter pillars all throughout this area of the land, and their purpose is unknown. They're just like solid material. It's not metal, it's not plastic, it's not stone. They're not quite sure what it is, and so the homes around there got sick first, and then it spread quickly through the city. But the arbiters there demanded it be quarantined, and then so that they don't spread the illness. And then the leader ordered the arbiters to be killed, and the arbiters then, most of them were slain, but in the process of to try to have them be taken out, they actually killed the leader of Lhasa and have now seized control of the town. So these men were, in some of the hubbub of that happened, managed to escape, and the quarantine has not been 100% successful, and they're trying to get everything that they can in terms of money or food to bring back, because everyone is starving, and the city is not self-sufficient, and they're not allowing anyone to come, and they're not leaving. So it's under siege within, to some extent. So, and they make it seem that the arbiters kind of went a little bit psycho.
Brother Bruce, sister Oriola, surely they don't understand. We should speak with our brothers and sisters and bring peace here.
Absolutely, I agree.
And the Master Arbiter's name is Genlo. He was a pretty well-respected chronicler of Tasali, and chroniclers are like when an arbiter retires, when they grow too old and slow to be effective in the field, usually when they hit middle age, a lot of them become chroniclers, or a lot of them become trainers. And chroniclers are kind of like historians or scribes. They maintain a lot of the archives and whatnot. And so he was a rather well-respected chronicler, rose through the ranks of the order that way, and then was given his own enclave here in Lhasa, which he oversaw the construction of recently, about 10 years ago. So he's rather old. He's probably pushing 70 by this time. But by all intents and purposes, not a militant man and not considered corrupt in any way.
I'll ask the men that are with us. Did Arbiter Jinlo, the chronicler, did he fall during the fighting?
And they all kind of shake their head and, no, he's the one in charge of the city now.
Ah, well, then we will work things out.
And so they seem, one of the young one, the one that stripped the body, seems dubious and untrusting, but the other three seem more relieved. So, for the sake of time, I'll give you your scene bonuses from that. So you guys definitely had, you all had a observance of righteousness, one of understanding, and one of compassion again. So remember, if you have an oath sworn of one of those, it counts as 2.
Nice.
Cool.
Now, these observances lead up to some...
Leveling up, basically.
Right. How does that work?
So when you get at least 2 observances of every tenet, so 10 total observances spread across the 5 tenets, you get what's called an advance, which is when you will improve one of your skill ranks, so you can bump like an average to good or a good to exemplary or whatever, as well as you acquire a new relevant talent, and it has to have been earned in that time period of the previous advance.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So that's how you improve in Vow of Honor.
Cool.
So for the last few minutes, I think what we'll do is I'll have you guys do another travel montage. Would you travel with these 4 gentlemen here as they take you back to Lhasa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
So what I'll do is call a scene scale difficulty. So rather than having you guys do individual tasks, I'm just going to set a difficulty for this whole scene of traveling, and it just requires your all combined successes in order to overcome it. So we'll put it at 4, which is relatively challenging. You have some hard road ahead, and about 2.5 days of travel. So go ahead and, again, I'll go in order of my screen. So Alex, if you'll have Roost briefly describe his actions over the next couple of days of how he will assist in overcoming this journey.
I think he would be providing alternative dietary requirements to the group, and also being kind of keeping an eye out for other lost souls who might need assistance.
Fair enough. Okay, sure. So go ahead and roll and tell me if you spend any honor dice or not. And I'll give you an advantage die again for finding food and whatnot. Since you're
recommendations on, would you say awareness that counts as both of those tasks? I think.
For that, I would say keeping an eye out and hunting food. Yeah, awareness is good.
I got.
Or knowledge. Either of those would work.
I've got poor knowledge, so I'm not going to go with that.
Okay.
So one, you gave me an extra advantage dice.
That's right.
And I'll put one honor dice in there as well.
Okay.
1 success.
All right. So we need 3 more. Otherwise, you'll have Jews. So, Rich, how would Kevlar tackle this journey over the next 2.5-3 days?
My desire is that these 4 men traveling with us, that we help them to understand the error of their ways, that we employ them really to help us, because they would know Lhasa better than we could, and they could help to spread the word to quell the troubles from this plague.
Okay. Perfect. So that would be an influence, I would say.
Mm-hmm. I will spend a couple honor because I'm doing great on replenishing my pool.
Great. And since they also already have established some trust from you and seen the artifact work, I'll give you 2 advantage dice.
Good.
Does he also get the talent?
Yeah, and your talent totally is if it's relevant. It's persuasive, right?
Persuasive. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Use that. Good looking out, Alex.
Thank you, Alex. All right, this is my influence, which is good, so I am looking for 4
5, 6.
plus.
Yep.
Not awesome, but 2 successes.
Yep. Okay. So we need one more.
I think I'm going to be hunting in case we need to be, but mostly I'm going to be talking to the 14-year-old, and I'm gonna tell my life story, what happened to me, because I have a feeling that there's something similar, something bad has happened to him that made him like that. So I'm trying to teach him some skills while we go there, like hunting for food and stuff like that. Trying to win him over.
Sure. Influence is the most relevant skill, but I would allow maybe something else if you can convince me. So any ideas there? Or are you okay with influence?
Influence or awareness too, maybe to see any kind of little...
Yeah, awareness is like insight, like intuition, so there's some of that. Yeah, I would allow that.
Yay, because that's the exemplary one.
Well, there you go.
So I've got 1 die, and I'm using 2 of my honor dice just in case. Oh. Okay, 2 successes.
Nice. So you got 5 out of the needed 4. So you over the next 2.5 days, you definitely make an impact, Roos, on showing them some ways to get food that don't involve murder hoboing people. They can, find random and wild plants, and you show them some edible flowers, and you show them there's a particular breed of fir tree that if you peel the bark off, it has lots of grubs in it, and yada yada yada. So you're, definitely helpful for them to find food in that way, low energy required food. And then Kevlar, as you're sort of talking to them and building their confidence and building their trust, you think you make a really respectable or reasonable impact on them. By the time the journey has ended, you wouldn't say that they're your friends or that they're going to go and try to join the order, but they're definitely on the right track for being more honorable in the future. And so you feel confident in your that they're going to be your allies in the city for sure. And Oriole, as you talk to the 14-year-old, you do find that his family, everyone other than his father, died of the whaling sickness, and his father was rather cruel to him and abusive to him, and so at the first chance he got to leave from this town, for whatever reason he didn't get sick, he took off with these guys to go and try to earn his own way. So, and the leader guy was sort of his mentor and was a fairly well-known kind of cutthroat in the city, and so looked up to him, but as soon as he was dead, oh well, take his stuff. So he's a very kind of pragmatic youth, misspent youth. So you arrive at the gates to Lhasa, and the city is, like I said before, it's built sort of on this small archipelago of these pillar-like little islands. So the Vahina opens up into a delta area, and there's these maybe 50-meter tall little rock pillars that are maybe at the widest 200 meters wide, and so they're like these little isolated islands, and that's where the city is built atop of, with lots of interconnected bridges and stonework kind of carved right into it. And in each of these columns is one of those unique and bizarre forebear pylons. And they're this kind of strange material, sort of like a dull matte white color. And they are otherwise nondescript. They're just like a perfect cylinder in the middle of these little stone column areas. And some people believe that they go all the way down into the ocean, into the water. So through these sort of basalt columns. So as you get there, the gate is immediately opened when they see the vestments of the order. You guys are arbiters, clearly all decked out, and you are brought inside what seems to be militarized town, much more authoritative control than you anticipated, which maybe makes sense in the case of a sickness, but is just completely, as you can imagine, like a plague-ridden city would be, very heavily dreary and contemptuous. Everyone's just sort of staying indoors. There's piles of dead being burned everywhere. The city is completely without food and very dark times. So as you finally get up there to the when you finally get up to the kind of magistrate's office, the castle, if you will, that Brother Genlo has taken over, you're able to, you kind of separate from your allies, the guys that helped you get here, and explain to him that you have the cure, and he is thankful but clearly troubled and of the sickness, and he's trying to figure out what caused it and isn't sure if the Forebear artifact will heal. So I think what we'll do is we'll kind of conclude there, or do a little bit of a follow-up wrap-up, because you've made it there. Your artifact may work and may not work, but without going too far along into the future, I don't think we can conclude if the city is cured of its plague or not.
Oh man! So can we do like one extended roll? And
yeah, sure. Yeah, let's do an extended scene, and each of you guys can get one roll to help Lhasa either be cured or improve in some way. Although there's definitely some potential for corruption here. Genlo seems much different than the legends would have said.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, if we're going to do one quick roll to kind of wrap it up, I think that I will try to utilize righteousness to speak to the people and try to calm everyone down so that we can get everything ordered and deliver the cures. So that's
okay. So go ahead and roll a. You can do an influence, or you can do a knowledge. If you're just trying to move quickly and like secure the city, then I would allow a might.
I think I'm tapping on influence too much, so let's try a knowledge, and I'll go ahead and blow 3 honor because my knowledge is average.
Okay.
Cool. So I'm rolling 4 dice, and my difficulty is 5 or 6. Oh, 1 pitiful success.
Nice.
But it's a success.
That's true.
Okay. Definitely helped. I'll narrate at the end here. So, Alex, Oriana.
I'm intrigued by this corruption. I feel that maybe Genlo has overstepped his boundaries, and I feel like maybe Roos would want to topple this dictatorship.
Okay. Awareness would be used to like learn more about it. But if you want to actually like come to violence, then you can roll a coordination or a might or a stealth if you're trying to do like a coup. But yeah, after the couple of days, it's clear that Genlo is ruling with a clenched fist.
Okay, I feel I would go into his fortress or whatever is. Mm-hmm. With the express, I would not make any. I wouldn't hide the fact that I'm going there to say, you need to step down. So if I'm met with force,
I see.
I guess would I be?
You would.
Okay,
yes,
I will roll coordination.
Basically, would not try to kill you, but he would have some of his goons who are not arbiters seize you.
Okay, well then I will. Since I can. I'm going to go and use up. So that's 1 dice and then 1 dice for my trick shot.
Mm-hmm.
And all this honor dice that's got nowhere to spend.
Blow it. Go for it. Let's see.
Okay. So I'm rolling.
You just can't roll more than 10
amount of dice I can spend?
Total max die is 10. So if you have like 3 basic dice, then you could have 7 spent honor dice.
Okay, I'm rolling 10 then.
All right. Go for it. Let's see.
And this is with coordination, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6
nice.
successes. I'm going in there and I am basically shooting weapons out of hands,
Nice.
possibly shooting people in the knees or foot or hands if needed. And
Right. Okay, I'll describe that in a second. What is Yana doing during this this hostile takeover?
Well, I was going to. Well, probably I have no idea what Brother Roos is up to, so I'm kind of just going around and talking to people and, being one of them sort of in a way and trying to figure out what was going on, gather as much information as ever I can and help everybody that I can.
So that would be a logic or awareness?
Awareness, because my logic is only average, so I'm using whatever I have left, so 3 dice altogether. Oh, only 1 success.
Still helps. No one failed, I don't think. So, okay. So Kevlar and Oriel kind of assist the city, while Roos strolls on up to the fortification up on the top of the hill here, and they immediately, bring him inside, but then try to seize him, and promptly begins firing upon people. So there's just a kind of an intense gun battle. Everyone in the city can hear it as they're just hearing, this cacophony of energy weapons being fired over and over and over again. And you don't kill anyone, but you do badly wound a number of people. And Genlo, seeing that he is at the point of kind of no return with Roos, would try to make Roos kill him. Would Roos would Roos kind of fail as Genlo makes it obvious that he's trying to kind of commit suicide upon you, or would you try to stop him before he can?
I would try and stop him, but maybe I fail.
Okay, I like that. So we'll say, as you maybe try to shoot out his knee or something as he brandishes a sword at you, you accidentally hit him in the wrong location, and he kind of tumbles back off one of these long drops into the water, and he meets a watery grave.
I kind of rush to try and catch him, but I'm too late.
Right. So you get to feel all the negative sadness of that, but breaking your vow of non-murder, but still, it was a righteous act, so it doesn't fall out of alignment with anything with the Tenets of Honor.
Very cool. Very cool.
So we'll conclude it there. I would have liked to have done a little bit more in the city, but I went too long in the beginning. Sorry about that.
No worries. No worries. That was really fun, Ben. Thanks so much for running Vow of Honor.
Sure.
I really appreciate you making time for us on Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, not a problem. Love it.
Absolutely what he just said.
Yeah.
Referring to Rich.
Ditto.
Yes. Thank
All
you.
right.
Oh,
Well,
thanks,
I'm
guys.
going to go back the game after this.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good to hear.
Cool. So the Kickstarter for Vow of Honor, we'll have a link in the YouTube video, but you can just search on Vow of Honor under Kickstarter right now. Thanks everyone for watching, and have a great afternoon or evening.
Thanks, guys.